All right, let's just jump right into this. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking a really fascinating, highly specific framework for understanding human behavior. We're looking at a concept that comes from the founder of Life Qianyuan, Guide Xufeng, or to ground it in its original context, Yuanzi Shengming Qianyuan Chuanzhong Daoyou Xufeng. He proposes this completely unique diagnostic tool for analyzing the human condition, essentially categorizing all of our flaws into what he famously calls the 8 types of soul garbage.
To really grasp this framework, we have to start with the ultimate question, right? Where does all human conflict, worry, and suffering actually come from? Well, according to Xufeng's radical thesis, the root of all global turmoil and even our own internal day-to-day anxiety doesn't come from the outside world. Instead, it stems entirely from what we carry inside ourselves. It's the psychological baggage we hold on to.
And that brings us to his core concept. He literally calls this stuff soul garbage. Life Qianyuan states that these psychological traits, behaviors, and deep-seated conditioning are the absolute root cause of all human contradictions. Think of it as a diagnostic tool that Xufeng created to categorize the exact flaws weighing down the human psyche and keeping us from achieving real peace.
So what does this garbage actually look like? Xufeng breaks it down into 8 specific buckets: primitive, habitual, cultural, cognitive, regional, group affiliation, self-centered, and belief-based. We're going to journey all the way from the micro, innate traits of the individual, right up to the macro, giant societal constructs.
Starting with Section 1, the individual, innate versus learned.
The crucial thing to understand here is the difference between primitive and habitual garbage. Primitive garbage refers to traits Xufeng believes we're inherently born with, stuff like jealousy, fighting, fear, and the urge to dominate. He actually compares this to the raw, unfiltered instincts you'd see in wild animals or plants. Habitual garbage, on the other hand, is the stuff we pick up over time. These are learned, petty routines like littering, judging someone by their appearance, or measuring a person's worth entirely by their wealth.
Moving out a bit, we get to Section 2, the society, culture and cognition.
Category number 3 is cultural garbage. Now, Xufeng defines this as soul garbage formed through subtle, long-standing cultural conditioning within a specific ethnicity or nation. Think about traditions or societal norms that we just accept as totally normal. Well, Xufeng argues they can actually be toxic. This includes behaviors like constantly comparing yourself to others, trying to save face, flattery, bribery, and even the relentless pursuit of trying to bring glory to your ancestors.
To put that into perspective, the source text points to specific cultural idioms. Phrases like, books hold golden houses and charming faces, or doctrines like, endure the hardest hardship to reach the top, or the 36 stratagems. According to Life Qianyuan, these aren't pearls of wisdom at all. They're cultural garbage that conditions people to act purely out of self-interest, ruthlessness, or a really superficial desire for success.
Next up is cognitive garbage, which basically arises from having a narrow worldview. And interestingly, Xufeng lumps together some very different types of beliefs here. It includes scientific misunderstandings, like believing the sun revolves around the earth. But it also includes huge ideological beliefs, like assuming humans are the highest form of life, believing that without a nation there is no home, or insisting on the sanctity of private property. In this framework, all of these are categorized as fundamentally flawed cognitive limitations.
That brings us to Section 3, the divides, region and group affiliation.
Category 5 is regional garbage. This stems from biases shaped purely by where you happen to live. Geographic isolation creates a limited understanding of the world. Xufeng gives a great practical example of this. Imagine someone mistakenly believing that the whole world has 4 seasons, simply because their specific region does. Or, conversely, thinking a year only has 2 seasons, like dry and rainy, because that's literally all they've ever experienced. It's a failure to see beyond your own immediate horizon.
But, this geographic bias can escalate into something much more damaging. The source text highlights how regional garbage manifests as harmful stereotyping and prejudice. Examples provided include holding the belief that Anglo-Saxons are the most superior, or using derogatory labels like sick men of Asia, foreigners, or outsiders. It's this psychological baggage that pits different regions of the globe against one another.
Closely related to that is group affiliation garbage. This happens when we form cognitive patterns based purely on certain circles or classes. Whether it's identifying as working class, aristocracy, Western imperialists, urbanites, or country folk. According to Life Chanyuan, categorizing people into these groups locks humanity into divisive boxes. It fragments us into competing factions rather than uniting us.
Which leads us to the deepest layer, Section 4, the core, ego and beliefs.
So, the absolute crux of Category 7, self-centered garbage, is the ego. Shuifeng argues that any thought, word, or action driven by self-interest is soul garbage. And he takes this to a pretty radical level. It's not just about selfishness, it's the very concept of ownership and personal attachment. Saying, this is mine, this is my country, this is my wife, or even saying, this is my child, is classified as soul garbage, simply because it centers the entire universe around the self.
And finally, we hit Category 8, belief-based garbage. There is a highly controversial mix of elements that Shuifeng places here. This category arises from values, morality, and worldviews built upon belief systems. Now, the source text lists holy wars and labeling others as heretics or cults as garbage, but it also explicitly includes the belief that all beings are created equal, and even the belief that everything was created by the greatest creator. So, in Life Chanyuan's framework, even these deeply held philosophical or religious values are considered a layer of psychological conditioning that just needs to be cleared out.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, clearing the path.
According to Shuifeng, the stakes here literally couldn't be higher. He concludes that all contradictions and suffering throughout human history stem directly from these 8 categories. He says, if soul garbage is not cleared away, humanity will never achieve peace and serenity. The source emphasizes that absolutely no one, no emperor, no billionaire, no national hero, can escape regret and fear if they don't actively purify their soul of this garbage.
All of this leaves us with a massive question to ponder. We've seen how this framework categorizes pretty much everything from our innate instincts to our most cherished cultural traditions and even our most deeply held moral beliefs as garbage blocking our peace. So if so much of what actually makes up human identity is considered toxic conditioning, can humanity ever truly strip away all 8 layers to clear this path? Is perfect serenity actually achievable, or are we just forever bound by the weight of our own souls? It's definitely a fascinating lens to look through and something to think about long after this explainer wraps up.